Hey witches, it's your Lunar Witch Haley, and welcome back to Moon Brews. The planchette is already on the main part of the story today, so let's unseal the archives. We are getting right into it. A historic district stands around you. Canopies of Spanish moss shroud massive oak trees, and cobblestone streets lay beneath your feet. Black iron gates stand tall before you as gas lanterns flicker in the night. Centuries-old buildings hide secrets that have gone to the grave for some, while others remain alive in spirit. Welcome, my friends, to Savannah, Georgia. Why am I covering Savannah, Georgia? Well, one, it's the most haunted cities in America, and I'm actually going to Savannah, Georgia for my batch party very, very soon. The city holds a deep connection to the spiritual realm and darkness. It was a place of slavery, mass death by war, illnesses, fires, and more. So why the hell wouldn't I go there for my batch party? Are you kidding me? Immediately I was like, I don't want to do a beach trip. I don't want to do a Miami trip. I don't want to do what everybody else does. I want to go to Savannah, Georgia and ghost hunt. That is what we are doing. The very cobblestone walk today holds the truth of bloody battles, traumatic events, and deep, deep history that remains alive in the arteries deep below the town. The history here is immense, and the paranormal activity is even greater. I plan to paranormal investigate a few buildings, take tours, and grab hella content. So make sure you're on Instagram, TikTok, and even YouTube, because I'm going to start doing mini vlogs or post what I find. Hopefully I'm allowed to record a lot of the paranormal investigating, because I want to look back for orbs and listen to EVPs and things like that through my recording. So hopefully I can just either raw edit that up on YouTube. I want to have lots of content, and I'm sure I'll also have a lot of stories to tell. So basically, Savannah, Georgia is a city built on the dead. When the city was being built in the 1800s, instead of moving pre-existing burial grounds, a lot of these sites were simply cemented over, paved over, for modern cars and buildings to stand today. They ended up building their city on top of cemeteries. The Colonial Park Cemetery was established in 1750 and acted as the primary burial ground for the city for over a century. The atmosphere is heavy and full from the weight of the past and the amount of bodies that lay to rest here. Over 10,000 bodies lay within this cemetery. Let me repeat that, how Ash would say, for the people in the back. 10,000 bodies are laid to rest here, or even unrest, as many of these bodies are buried on the same site in mass graves. So who knows how many of these thousands of people are sharing the same, not to be morbid, hole in the ground. The grounds in modern times are actually smaller than the original size of the cemetery, meaning modern sidewalks, buildings, and pathways were built directly over the cemetery, directly over some bodies, the dead. As you walk near the perimeter of these cemeteries, be reminded that you may be walking over a mass grave site, which is just awful if you were buried there and you just have a modern freaking sidewalk on top of you and nobody seems to know because they just started cementing over things and you're laid to rest underneath there. There are also secret burial grounds all over the city as well. Areas like the Calhoun Square and parts of the Algathorpe Avenue are known to be areas that lay over unmarked graves. Graves specifically for enslaved people, Native Americans, and victims of epidemics. So not only did they cement over bodies that they knew they were there, they didn't give people that had passed the courtesy enough to give them a gravesite, because people are gonna people and be bad people for no reason whatsoever. They have these secret burial sites because they couldn't give them the respect that they needed even in death, and we don't know where those are. They're secret, they're hidden somewhere, and we won't know, I guess, unless you start digging one day, right? But how many buildings, you can't even imagine how many buildings that are accidentally buried over sites that were secret, right? What a tragedy to be buried not only in a mass grave, but in an unmarked grave that now lies beneath the city, beneath sidewalks where unknown civilians walk in our modern day. Savannah has a dark history when it comes to epidemic and fires. In 1820, a tenth of the city died from a yellow fever outbreak. With this amount of people dying, the amount of bodies grew, leading members of the city with no choice but to create massive graves for these individuals. The Great Fires also affected the city of Savannah immensely. In 1796 and 1820, massive fires leveled hundreds of buildings. Hundreds of buildings. What a fucking tragedy. Obviously, these disasters caused numerous deaths. The old Harbor Inn is actually built at the site of one of these disastrous fires. And if you want to book a place to stay, don't worry, because their website says it's, quote, a unique blend of historic charm and modern comfort, quote. I'm sure it's a unique blend of pure fucking darkness. Good God, to build an inn over the site of a massive fire that took lives and burned hundreds of buildings to the ground. Can you even fathom the energy that is there? Savannah, Georgia is one of the most haunted cities in America due to its bloody military history. Savannah saw both the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. The Siege of Savannah in 1779 was one of the bloodiest battles that occurred during the Revolutionary War. Locations like the Sorrel-Weed House sit on the very land where hundreds of soldiers were killed in hand-to-hand combat. Really think about what war was like in 1779. Like, go back to, when we learned about that? Was that middle school or like early high school? How they went at each other with nothing but guns. No armor, no shields. That wasn't how they fought back then. Just sheer power of gunpowder, shooting at point blank at one another with muskets and rifles. Now a lovely home sits on these grounds. Not to mention the Marshall House. It used to serve as a makeshift hospital where amputations and death likely occurred on a daily basis. Imagine being in the house where residual energy of someone getting an amputation done in the 1700s exists. No anesthesia, just some rum, opium, physical restraint, and a lot of distraction and speed. But now your Marshall House sits upon there. Can you imagine? You probably hear the screams of these soldiers as they were getting their legs amputated. And the last reason Savannah is so haunted and spooky today is because of the preservation of the old structures that still stand today. Unlike a lot of cities, Savannah has kept a lot of the old structures and buildings in place from the historic district, keeping the haunted energy alive to this very day. I am so excited just to take the witchiest photos ever down there with the Spanish moss dripping over the large oak trees. Like, I cannot wait. And their cemeteries are going to be something that probably I haven't really experienced before. I'm so super excited to just feel the energy and kind of feel like I went in like a time warp to get there. So now we know the history behind Savannah, let's talk about the ghosts that still reside today and the homes in which they roam. So we are starting with the infamous Sorrel-Weed House. This home has been featured on Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, History and Travel Channel, and HGTV. The last one, HGTV, is a bit off, and it's definitely throwing me off. I'm unsure why HGTV went to the Sorrel House because it's like a hotel. Maybe the people who have it have it as a hotel today, or an inn rather, were on HGTV before they bought. Who knows? Originally, this home was the residence of the Sorrel family. Francis Sorrel was a very wealthy plantation owner whose life was marred with tragedy and scandal. After the death of his first wife, Francis Sorrel decided to marry his late wife's younger sister, Matilda. Now that's fucking weird. Things get even worse as Matilda catches Francis having an affair with a woman named Molly. Francis is trash. Molly was in the home as one of Francis's slaves. Matilda, distraught by this, ended up taking her own life by jumping headfirst off the second floor balcony. 1 week later, Molly ended up, more trigger warnings here. I probably should have put a trigger warning at the beginning, but we're getting dark. 1 week later, Molly ended up committing suicide as well by hanging. Reports differ if this was the doing of Molly or if it was planted to look like a suicide. And of course, the ghosts of Molly and Matilda haunt the Sorrel-Weed House today. The stagnant, negative, and heavy energy is a perfect combination for lost souls to roam for eternity. Molly is said to be stuck in the slave quarters of the home, which I believe is down in the basement. People tend to fall ill upon entering this area of the home. Molly and Matilda are not the only two souls lurking in this home. There's a very negative presence as well. Visitors have feelings of being choked by an unseen force. It is believed that this negative energy is stemmed from the hundreds of dead soldiers who died during the siege of Savannah, right on these very grounds where the Sorrel-Weed House stands today. The siege of Savannah was one of the bloodiest battles fought near the Madison Square. There were so many bodies that the revolutionaries just dug very large holes to place all of the bodies into. The sick and the injured were placed there as well, sometimes even buried alive. After the war, the bodies were never exhumed. The building eventually was built on top of this massive grave. In the late 1900s, there were bones and pieces of clothing found from soldiers in the basement of the Sorrel-Weed House. Well, there it is, folks. Tragedy upon tragedy occurring in different timelines on the same land, conjuring more and more negative energy to turmoil in the soil. No wonder there's a dark energy, pissed off soldiers, and unrest. Dark silhouettes roam through the halls, and reflections of female apparitions appear in mirrors. There's a tour that you can do at the Sorrel-Weed House where they'll let you paranormal investigate the freaking premises. I cannot imagine investigating a home like this. There's no way you won't capture truly compelling evidence of the dead here. A half a mile away from the Sorrel-Weed House stands the Kehoe House, built in 1892 by William Kehoe, a successful iron foundry owner. The home's exterior includes staircases, window treatments, columns, fences, and gates, all made of cast iron. Are you kidding me? How gothic and sick is that? The home features 13 guest rooms and multiple private balconies. It is a beautiful dark red brick Queen Anne mansion with absolutely beautiful architecture. Corinthian columns stand tall, bay windows open to the square, and turrets are all located inside the mansion of the home. William Kehoe originally built this home for his family, and they lived here for a number of years. Unfortunately, 2 of his children had passed away in the home. There are a few rumors of how these children died. One story is about how these children were playing hide and seek in the home. One hid inside the chimney staff and inevitably got stuck inside, eventually dying from this. The other story is that the children died of yellow or scarlet fever in the home. What we do know as fact is that there are reports of ghost children running throughout the home, popping their heads in and out of the 13 rooms. Laughter, yells, and children voices are heard all throughout the home as well. Guests have seen indentations on their bed while they lay, as if something is sitting on the edge of the bed with them. That is terrifying. I wait for that to happen to me, when I'm lying in my bed. I think that's probably one of the scary, you see shadows and you think you hear things down the hallway, but having an indentation appear and you can feel it is probably the scariest thing. I can't even fathom it. I had a twisted dream last night. It was so twisted. It was borderline, was it reality? I'm going to save that for the next episode, but having an indentation on my bed would ruin me. It would ruin me to my core. There's an alleged intelligent spirit that resides in the Kehoe home, a spirit that knows how to communicate and interact with the living. This spirit is said to watch guests when they sleep. It also appears in doorways and lurks behind into the darkness if you ever see its head popping out. Apparently, the Kehoe house acted as a funeral home at some point in time. Energies from countless souls leaving this plane passed in this very home. Did they actually leave, or did some of these souls stay? Guests have reported hearing sounds of a gurney wheeling down the hallway over and over again late at night. That is another thing that would ruin me. Hearing the gurney wheels squeak down the freaking... Are you kidding me? When I'm trying to sleep in this damn house? Hell no. And that one's hard to debunk too, because what the hell sounds like a gurney flying down the hallway, right? This home currently acts as a hotel, and you're more than welcome to stay. It's a beautiful mansion to reside in, but there's no guarantee you'll be sleeping the night. A few miles away stands the Bonaventure Cemetery, a beautiful rural scenic cemetery. It was originally designed as a traditional Victorian cemetery, with curving paths, overhanging trees, and grassy areas to sit. The headstones are even Victoria-era designed. Moss-draped oak hang over the windy paths all throughout the cemetery. The vibe must be immaculate here. I cannot even imagine what it's going to be like to experience how magical and haunted the cemetery is going to be. The Bonaventure Cemetery is located on the former site of the Bonaventure Plantation, which was originally owned by Colonel John Mulren. The plantation was eventually sold in 1846 to Peter Wiltberger to act as a private cemetery. One of the first burials on this property occurred in 1850, and 3 years later, morbidly, Peter himself was entombed in a family vault onto the property. Some of the tombs, headstones, and vaults on the property are absolutely breathtaking. They are extremely detailed pieces of stone that stand very tall. Go look at some pictures, seriously, right now. You won't regret it. You can feel the energy through the photos. Of course, this cemetery is haunted. What cemetery isn't? The ghost of little Gracie Watson haunts the cemetery to this day. Gracie passed away in 1889 after being diagnosed with pneumonia. Little Gracie was only 6 years old. Her father, absolutely heartbroken, had a life-sized marble statue made of her that stands on her grave today. Unfortunately, Gracie's parents had to move up to New England for work, and they left their little girl behind in Georgia all alone. It is said that she walks the grounds in a white dress, occasionally skipping through the winding paths, in and out of headstones, and then vanishing in midair. A lot of trinkets and toys are left at her gravesite today as offerings and remembrance items. If the trinkets and toys are removed from her gravesite, the statue cries tears of blood. What asshole removes the toys or removed the toys on this little girl's gravesite for us to know that the statue cries tears of blood? Don't ever take offerings off of headstones, you losers. Like, seriously? Seriously? You don't want the dead coming after you. You bet I'm bringing Gracie a little trinket as an offering when I head there. There is another statue on this property that is haunted. The face of this statue changes. I cannot fathom what it would be like to experience a statue face changing. I'd look at dolls, like those ceramic dolls, and they freak me the hell out. As I wait for one to like blink or do something, so a whole statue changing faces. On late autumn evenings, if you happen to be in the cemetery, listen a little extra harder. Social gatherings happened on this property in the early 1900s, and to this very day, you can hear the sounds of glass shattering, disembodied laughs, music, laughter, and the crackling of flames, which is 100% residual energy, which is sick as hell. Side tangent on residual energies really quick. Do these spirits know that they are trapped in a residual haunting? Or have their souls left this plane for good and a piece of them is stuck energetically? What exactly is residual energy? If it's not intelligent, right, because they're not like talking to you, do the spirits even know that a piece of them is stuck in a timeline that they're no longer at? I keep asking myself these questions and it's making me go into a rabbit hole. Phantom dogs have also been seen on the property. Our next haunted mansion is an Italianate-style mansion called the Andrew Lowe House. It operates currently as a museum. Andrew Lowe moved from Scotland and built this home in Savannah. He was a very wealthy businessman. He married Sarah Hunter and they had 3 children. Unfortunately, before the home was completed, Sarah and the youngest son had died of illness. Andrew Lowe is still alive today, roaming the halls of the home. Another spirit that resides in this home is a ghostly butler. He's one of the most common spotted ghosts in the home. His footsteps are heard on all levels of the house, and he has been seen standing on top of the stairs, appearing as an old man. A friendly spirit, they say. Not only does his spirit walk the halls of the museum, he moves objects around as well, moving the items you pack in your suitcase to a different location in the room. A Confederate soldier named General Robert lingers in the home as well. He is typically seen wearing a suit and tie. There have been no reports of the spirit interacting with the living. He is rather stuck in time, his residual energy repeating day and night, stuck in the Andrew Lowe home forever. So what's interesting to me is when they're so confident that the Confederate soldier is named General Robert E. Lee. So one, an apparition of him had to have been clear as freaking day to truly know that he's a Confederate soldier. And also his facial structure had to be so present when he manifested himself that people were able to identify him. It blows my mind when people are like, oh yeah, that spirit is, General Robert E. Lee. Like, how did you know that? Do you have a picture of him? Did somebody of the home see him so clear as freaking day that they can identify him? That they can ID him? I mean, that is strange as hell. I also wonder if there is a reason a spirit resides in a home as residual energy versus an intelligent one. So do intelligent spirits want to be stuck in our plane? And do they want to be able to interact with us? And the souls that decide to move on, do they move on but a little piece of them remains? Someone help me understand the code behind this, please. And what souls get to stay and who gets to leave. Tell me your theories on this, because I need to know if I can choose to stay on this plane and haunt you as an intelligent spirit, or what has to happen to me for me to be a residual spirit drinking my red wine and talking on a podcast for all eternity in this room. Like, seriously. Because after my body is done on this plane, I am traveling. I'm traveling to that next dimension, whatever it is. I don't necessarily think I should be stuck on Earth forever. Unless this gets into like a purgatory because of your sins. The more you sin, the more your residual energy is likely to get stuck here. Or if you're an intelligent spirit, you might not necessarily want to be here, but you're imprisoned here on Earth. Your body left, but your soul can't physically leave behind these bars because of the things that you did while you were alive. It's so interesting. The most frequent phenomena that occurs in the house is one of a rocking chair. The chair can be found in the home, rocking back and forth by itself. And it's actually a family heirloom of the Lowe family. So obviously, it has an attachment. Is this Andrew Lowe, rocking forever in time in his mansion? And to end, we're going to cover the old pink house. A beautiful Georgian mansion that was constructed out of red bricks and covered with white stucco. See, I even wrote the pronunciation here, stucco. And I had to look up what stucco was. It is a fine plaster used for coating wall surfaces or molding into architectural decorations. Whew, mouthful. And apparently this is how the home actually got its name. The red bricks behind this coating would bleed through, giving the home a pinkish color. And this home was noted to have, quote-unquote, bleeding bricks. It was eventually painted the color pink to make it, the name makes sense today. Allegedly, James Habersham Jr. hung himself in the basement of the home. This is where the Planters Tavern is actually located today. Legend has it, he learned that his wife was having an affair with the architect that he hired to design the actual building. Another story is that he was so distraught over his wife's death, he ended up hanging himself. But I have to play devil's advocate here. We do have some records that indicate that Habersham died in 1799, and his death certificate lists the cause of death as declining health. Habersham can be seen wearing his colonial garb while drinking an ale. That's a pretty sweet way to live internally in this home. He's also an intelligent spirit that interacts with the living. So much so, visitors report how pleased they were with the reenactor on site to learn that there is no actor on the property and that the encounter was most likely Habersham in death as a freaking spirit. The day The day that I fall for the ghost as a reenactor will be the day I die. This happens all the time. I hear this happening in Gettysburg a lot because they have reenactors a lot that, reenact the time in the late 1700s or early 1800s, and they're all dressed up in their colonial garb and they're talking the way they would back then. To find out that that wasn't a reenactor and an actual spirit, I would die. Truly. The sounds of children throwing dice at the wall in the basement occurs too. Children that had either died of the fires mentioned earlier or illnesses like yellow fever. Please stay tuned for all the paranormal happenings and visitation post on my socials after I visit the lovely city of Savannah this spring. I cannot wait to meet all the ghosts that I was able to talk to you about today. And if you have any paranormal stories of your own, or if you've been to Savannah, Georgia, and you have any sort of recommendations, please send your stories to moonbrewspodcast@gmail.com, and we may read your spooky tale.